everyone, how's it going? From now on, I plan to make some videos showing recordings that I think have phenomenal drumming, especially older recordings, because nowadays, when people talk about jazz and instrumental music, they mostly talk about the 1950s onwards, right? But there's a lot of fantastic stuff that was recorded since the very first jazz recording in 1917, and I think it's really worth bringing that to light. Speaking of which, I put together a playlist on Spotify called Vintage Drumming. In this playlist, I include a bunch of recordings by old jazz drummers, songs where the drums stand out, whether in a solo or in the rhythm, and it's really worth checking out because there's a lot of great stuff that needs to be shared. I'll leave the link in the description. In this video, which I'm going to call episode 1, I'm going to highlight 5 recordings that I think have spectacular drumming. I'd like to play the audio, at least some clips, but YouTube blocks it, so there's no point. So I'm going to make some suggestions. I'll talk a little about each song, and I'll leave the link below for you to listen. I'm going to start with the first jazz recording. In 1917, by the original Dixieland Jazz Band. Back then, jazz was spelled with 2 S's. Legend has it that the word jazz with 2 S's had a sexual connotation. The first recording is called Dixie Jazz Band One Step, recorded in 1917. It's part of the first jazz recording, and it's by the original Dixieland Jazz Band. The drummer is Tony Sparber, a fantastic drummer. The work he does is impressive, especially his snare drum work. The bass drum pedals were still being developed at that time. The modern pedal that we know today was developed by Ludwig, but before that there were already different prototypes and so on. He gives some bass drum hits on giant bass drums, 28 inches, sometimes 30, using a drumstick, actually playing with the stick because it was easier. He does some snare work. In the first part of the song, he does phenomenal snare work, and then he leads. On the woodblock, he leads with the woodblock, which was attached to the bass drums, and he does some accents on the cowbell. And another thing, using a China cymbal, a Chinese cymbal, it's just spectacular. Take a listen to this. The second song I wanted to bring up is Canal Street Blues by the great master Tim Oliver, the cornetist. He was Louis Armstrong's teacher. King Oliver's band had none other than on drums the young man at the time, the young Baby Dodds, Warren Baby Dodds, brother of Johnny Dodds, the clarinetist, who was also part of this band, a spectacular band. And Baby Dodds became one of the most creative drummers in jazz. His style flourished mainly in the late 1930s and 1940s. Later, I will bring quite a few recordings of him from that time. He used the crepe set a lot, used it quite a bit, and he didn't use the hi-hat. He never adapted to the hi-hat, never used the hi-hat in his life. There was no hi-hat in his kit. And in this song, he practically only plays the wood block, does a few accents, I believe, on the snare drum. The recording is old. This is a recording from 1923. But the pulse of this band, the way Baby Dodds leads on the wood block, is fantastic. It's really worth getting to know. The third song is called Harlem Congo, recorded by none other than one of the greatest masters of drumming, Tico Webb. Tico Webb, unfortunately, died young. He passed away in 1939, and he was just over 1 meter 20 tall because he had spinal tuberculosis as a child. So he ended up very small. He was hunchbacked, but he played the drums. He was one of the greatest drummers of all time. The power he had when playing was impressive. He was the absolute idol of Gene Krupa and Buddy Rich. And there's a really good story about Tico Webb, because there was the Savoy Ballroom where Tico Webb's band played. It was a band in Harlem. There was Benny Goodman's band, which was on the rise and becoming a huge success. The White Band was invited to go play there at the Savoy, and there was a battle of the bands. The band that received the most applause was the winner, and Gene Krupa was the sensation of the moment because he was a guy with incredible technique and energy, and he was also good looking. who even did a bit of acting later on and all that. So he was the sensation. And Gene Krupa was a really nice guy. After that battle, which obviously Tico Herb's band won, Gene Krupa wrote, he had a column he wrote in Downbeat magazine, or Metronome, if I'm not mistaken. I'll check. Gene Krupa said it was the biggest beating he ever took in his life, which is amazing, because of Tico Herb's power and Gene Krupa's humility. On the other hand, what happened? Gene Krupa became popular for having performed the first major drum solo, and he turned the drums into a solo instrument in Sing, 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 which was recorded in 1937, if I'm not mistaken. And it was a sensation. Everyone was talking about it, everyone wanted to play with Gene Krupa. Then, from that point on, because of the song's success, orchestra conductors also started wanting to bring the drums to the forefront. They wanted to have more drum solos in their shows because of the success of Sing, Sing, Sing with Gene Krupa, and Chick Webb was no exception. He had his own orchestra, which was excellent. He was a band leader and a drummer. He said, man, I need to start featuring my drums to sing. So he recorded this song, Hale in Congo, in 1937, at the very end of 1937, and what he does is incredible. The solo he plays, the power of his solo. He plays phrases where he moves through the temple blocks, the blocks of time he had on top, placed above the bass drum. They were like wood blocks of various sizes, but beautiful. They were rounded. Chinese motifs, it was a beautiful thing. So he does a solo with incredible power on the snare, and then he flies through a passage in time. Blocks, cowbells, such power. Then the fourth song, recorded in 1941, now by Gene Krupa, is the song Who, which has one of the most beautiful roll progressions I've ever heard. It's so clear, so beautiful, the way Gene Krupa develops the roll progression during the solo. It's something spectacular. And to wrap up today's episode, I wanted to bring in something a little more recent. From 1957, a wonderful trio called the Pool Winners, with none other than Barney Kessel on guitar, Ray Brown on acoustic bass, and the master Shelly Manne on drums, who has some of the most incredible brushwork in jazz. This song, Jordu, is spectacular. This trio has an extraordinary chemistry. Charlie Mann's brushwork is very creative, very rich, very vibrant. And in the middle of the song, he puts down the brush and starts playing in such an incredible way, adding an African flavor with his fingers. So that's it. I hope you enjoy it. The links are down below, and happy listening.